Welcome to Retrained Search, the podcast, where we lift the lid on what it's really like to work retained, discuss the stories we've gathered along the way, and give you all a peek behind the scenes of our amazing community and how they're getting ahead. So welcome everybody to today's episode of the Retained Search show. George, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I've had a very good weekend and I fly to Mallorca on holiday later today.
Yay!
Oh, everything is good in the world at the moment.
Are you at the airport at the moment?
No, I'm not. I was meant to be, but I managed to move a couple of calls around, which meant I didn't have to get to the airport 8 hours before my flight.
Oh, gosh.
Which Becca and my 2-year-old little girl are very happy about.
Yeah, especially, Manchester, or is it Liverpool?
Liverpool,
yes. It's only a little airport, isn't it? Not a lot to do.
It is. No.
I am delighted to share with you all our guest today, Jeron van der. How do I pronounce your surname?
It's unusual. Jeron van den Elshout. In Holland, they pronounce it a little bit differently. But because I was raised in South Africa, it's a bit of a twist. But van den Elshout, Jeron van den Elshout, Jeron Van, J, call me whatever you want.
Jeron, cool. I can do that. That sounds manageable.
And Jeron, I have to ask then, how are you feeling as, I'm assuming, an Arsenal fan, based on the shirts in the background?
You know what? Another season, another second. What can you do? You know, honestly,
I'm a Liverpool fan. I was at the game at the weekend. I was at the parade yesterday. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I got a lot of mates, that will always walk alone. I said in the beginning of the season, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal. I actually didn't care who won.
As long as it wasn't Man City.
100%. That's all that mattered. It's a bit bittersweet that we didn't get it. You know, we've been twice now on the trot, but Liverpool deserve it. They played an exceptional season. So, you know, kudos to the team that
if only all football fans were as gracious in defeat as you, Jeron.
Every single person that has ever met me, and I comment on a lot of posts online, say I'm probably the most gracious Arsenal supporter. For some reason, Arsenal supporters are bitter in general. You know, I'm not. I've been supporting since I was 8, and will continue to support.
Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad for you both.
It's like, I don't have anything to add to the conversation.
Nothing, zero. So what I am interested in, though, is finding out a bit more about you and what you're up to and how you're seeing things. So we'll get into that as the conversation progresses. Jeron, we'd be delighted if you could share with us a little bit about you, your business, where you are and what you do.
Cool. I'm going to give you the intro that I give to candidates, clients, consultants. It's the same thing. It's obviously been edited over the years because obviously I've changed jobs, but it's going to be a rap. So prepare yourself.
I like it.
So I'm not going to actually rap. I'm not going to sing. I'm tone deaf. I
was getting ready to beatbox then.
Yeah.
Harry Mack on the mic. No. So look, I'm South African, as you can gather by the accent. If you haven't heard this accent, do blame Leonardo DiCaprio for a bad interpretation of Blood Diamond. But yeah, South African accent through and through. Born and raised that side, bit of a mix. Dad's Dutch, hence my surname, van den Elshout. Mom is South African, but they met at a very young age. Met over there, had me and my sisters. I studied engineering, not by choice. My dad forced me. But, you know, I got into engineering and I really enjoyed it. I was there for like 2 years studied industrial engineering. And I loved the job, but I absolutely hated my boss. And I'm going to link this back to recruitment and LinkedIn because you see it all over LinkedIn. It's like the culture's toxic. That's why I left the company. Mine was so bad, I left the industry.
Wow.
So I shifted out of engineering and I actually moved to the UK. I had friends living in London. I had one mate that decided to coerce me to come join him in sales. I'd never done sales in my life. He was like, no, it's a great company. You can make lots of money. I went and I joined, only soon to realize that misery loves company, and he was a door knocker. So he wanted me to come suffer in silence with him, do door-to-door sales. So I got into it that way. He lasted 3 months. I lasted 2.5 years. So something stuck. It was really hard. You know, anyone that you know in the UK that does door-to-door sales, it's tough.
What were you selling?
Market. utilities, gas and electric.
Oh
So I
my
wasn't a
gosh.
white gold guy. I wasn't doing double glazing as some of my other friends have done. But no, I was doing utilities. So you go up against British Gas, Power Gen, and Power, essentially knocking people's doors and telling them that they can save money, and
That's
then taking the
brutal.
details, on the spot, credit card details, and walk away. It's in my mind, it's so crazy to know that I actually made sales doing that. But anyhow, I was the worst door knocker you've ever met, just by the way. For the first 2 months, I was literally on the end of my manager saying, "You're going to get put on a plane and get deported. Like, we can't keep you anymore." Made zero sales. And then one thing I like to say, it stuck, was he pulled me aside and actually kind of, this is also linked to recruitment, but he kind of tore apart my desk, if you want to call it that. He like sat me down and said, "Let's just understand what you're doing. You're supposed to do 100 knocks a day, so 100 dials, but knocking on doors. How many are you actually doing?" And I looked down at my sheet and I said, "Look, I'll be honest with you, I get to about 20 no's and I just stop. I would go to a park, I'd sit there and have a fag, I would eat a Mars bar and just wait for the day to end and then get picked up from patch and go home." And he said to me, and this is the thing that stuck, he said, "You're doing a disservice, because if you actually had to just complete 100 knocks, out of this other 80, there might have been some yeses, right? If you just were resilient enough to go through it and get more no's, you'd get a yes." He gave me one more chance and he said, "Listen, go out and all I want you to do is knock on 100 doors. I don't care if you make any sales, just knock on 100 doors. And if you do that, you can keep your job." So I was a young 20-year-old living in London, didn't have anything else. We're living in company accommodation. I was going to be kicked back onto a plane back home. I'm going to go knock on 100 doors. And what transpired was I went out and I knocked 100 doors, not thinking about the outcome. At the end, looked down at my piece of paper and I made 10 sales, which was the most in the office for the day. So when I went back to the office, obviously being young, knowing that I was about to get fired, and I've just done 10 sales, I walk into the office with my chest puffed out, "Oh, I'm the man." And went and write my numbers on the board, and I noticed I was the top one for the day, and walked into his office afterwards, and he was just sitting there grinning because he knew what was going to happen. And I said to Wayne, I was like, "I did 10 sales." He said, "Yeah, so you can actually do this. You're just giving up too early. So what I want you to do is go out and do that again, day in, day out." That's what I did, 2.5 years. I was a top biller for them. After 6 months, I became a team leader, 23 years of age. It was my first sales leadership opportunity. I led a team of 14 reps. All of them are older than me, so from 25 to the age of 40. So it was a big step, and he's actually one of my, I would say, mentors, because he gave me my first shot.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. So I'll fast forward my UK experience. I was there for 6 years. All of it was outbound cold calling. I moved back to South Africa, where I thought, being a young 26-year-old, I'm going to now take my international experience in sales and bring it to a third world country. I'm going to make millions and I'm going to retire at the age of 30. Didn't happen. Ended up struggling to find work, ended up going through recruitment agencies and getting quite livid with some agencies in South Africa, purely because they were sending me the wrong JDs, they were sending me to the wrong positions. As a candidate, I've been on that side of the seat. It was so frustrating. Like, is no one listening to me? Are they not listening to what I actually want? It got to the point where one of the agencies actually got asked to come sit with them face to face, because we're in the same city. Met them in the office and kind of voiced my frustrations to the recruiter, who I didn't realize was one of the directors. And she turned around and she said, "Listen, if you think it's so broken, why don't you come join us and fix it?" Me being, once again, 26 and a little bit cocky, I was like, "Okay, challenge accepted. I will come and be a recruiter." Not knowing I'd be doing this for the rest of my career, I stepped in and I was like, "I'll do this for a year. What better way to find a job? To join an agency, jobs come in, I'll just apply to them directly," right? Some people do that. Within 6 months, I broke the company record in terms of billables. I got my first big comp check, and I think that's what happens with most recruiters, is when you get that first big comp check, you're like,
golden handcuffs, you can't get out.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, ironically, there was a Harley Davidson shop below my office, and I used to hear those bikes, and I was a big Harley fan. So with my first comp check, I bought a Harley cash, which was amazing. So I fulfilled the dream bucket list. And I've been in it ever since, man. So the first company was a corporate. I do hold the company dear to my heart because they do exceptional training in South Africa. So they're equivalent to a Manpower or an
Hazel, yeah.
a Hays. Yeah, they're the big one in South Africa. They're just national, right? They're not really global. So I was there for just under 4 years, from consultant, senior consultant, junior manager to manager, if you want to call it that. Everyone has different titles in different companies, ran a small team, did exceptionally well. Then it got randomly headhunted by a startup. I don't really know the true story, but the story goes that the MD's team, it was a very small company, started hitting on a few doors of clients and they kept saying, we're only working with one person. So he was like, well, if I can't get into these companies, let's try and find this one person and bring him over. And so my name got passed around. I got put in front of them. They wowed me with, what they're trying to achieve. It was I want to say scaffy. I don't know if that's the right word, but it was like a small, dingy office that had literally checkered floors. Like I'm talking about grim de la grim, and like a little bar in the corner. Proper startup, but like, yeah, we vibey, we cool, which they were. And I went to go join them just to see what could happen, really. And they were an engineering firm, but they were looking to get into technology, and I'd never done technology. But the one thing that I was strong at was business development because of my cold calling. And I think that's generally the pool with most agencies these days. I still see it. 360 consultant is way more attractive than a 180 consultant. Someone who can kind of get clients in, run a desk, self-sustained, right? So I joined them as a manager, came in, which was always tough. I will say this, going into a new company as a manager, not a consultant, and earning your stripes, it kind of puts spotlight on you. They're like, holy shit, who's this guy? What's he going to do? Is he that good? Is he just a talker? So, I stepped in as a billing manager, if you want to call it that. And automatically I knew that I needed to earn their trust. So I'm very proactive with regards to marketing candidates. I actually cold call on candidates. So just to flip the script, the reason I did so well in the previous company, a lot of the agencies I've ever been with, if not all of them, are very reactive. They will send messages to clients or ask clients, can you give me a job? Do you have a job? Is there anything I can work? Fine, nothing wrong with that, but it's reactive. It's the same as sending an email to a candidate on LinkedIn and waiting for their response. Proactive, in the same light, is sending them an email, sending them a WhatsApp, sending them an email, phoning them, trying to get the candidate on the line so you can move forward. I flipped the script in terms of reactive recruitment was waiting for a job. Instead, I took a candidate to market. Now, I know this is not rocket science. People do this, but in South Africa, it wasn't like unheard of back then. So I would just do what I call the 300 club. I would phone 300 candidates, 300 clients, break it down. What is the need? At that point, it was technologists. Find a whole bunch of technologists, look back at my notes. These were the 5 companies that said they were kind of in the market for this type of skill. And I'll take my best 2 technologists and pitch them into the companies. But without sending a CV, I'd book an interview. And that was the hard part. So my first 2 weeks of this company, I stood up. I was like proper Wolf on Wall Street, kicked the chairs out, just bang the phone and cold call on my candidates. And I think in the one day I booked one person like 6 interviews. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just banging the phone. And by the end, when I put down the phone, I heard the whole office was dead quiet. I turned around and everyone was just staring at me like I was an alien. What the hell was this guy doing? And that's how, I started that company, showing them like this is the way to really generate good revenue quicker than waiting for jobs and sending 5 candidates being up against, 3 other contingent agencies. I was with them for 6 years in total. We grew the company quite rapidly. I started off as like leading up Africa, then MEA. Then I got promoted to director of EMEA, so I ran a larger team. I specialize in cybersecurity. That's kind of the niche that I went into because I wanted to specialize. And I think, at that point, it was data and cyber was everyone was talking about in 2015. So I jumped into that bandwagon. We ended up selling that company. You might know of them, but we kind of did a private equity deal. We bought 2 other agencies. We looped it all together. We called it TechStream Global, and then we sold it off to a company called Exceed in the UK. So I exited that business. I moved over to Dubai, got headhunted by a startup, heard about that story. They said, we want to replicate it. Fine, I joined them as the VP, ran a small team, did pretty well. In all honesty, business was good. Culture was a bit, I'm not going to say too much because you might be airing this podcast to everyone. So, yeah, I exited that business. I got headhunted by Hayes, and then I ran the Middle East office for about a year and a half. And then, unfortunately, I got let go. Not shy to talk about that. It was a bit odd, but global cost cutting in big organizations, it happens. I was unfortunately one of the guys got let go, even though we 150% our quota. So with a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, mind you, because I exited that business going, what just happened? Like, we're doing so well and I just got let go. I decided two things. Either I go to another agency and help them grow or start my own thing. And led me to Coley. So we started Coley a year and a half ago. Coley, the name, lots of people ask, what the hell, where did they get that from? It's actually my kids' initials. I've got two beautiful kids, Keanu, Oslo, Lila, Eve. It's the initials. Started as me and alone. I wasn't planning to actually start and grow a recruitment agency. I was more thinking work-life balance. I can stay at home. I am the sole breadwinner. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. Let me just do this, have flexible time, get some time back with my kids, which would be amazing because trust me, you lose a lot when you work at a corporate and you're doing 14-hour days. Yeah. So that's how we started. And after 3 months, it was just like, holy crap, we need more people. The amount of jobs we were getting in, the clientele that were just really digging the style of the way we work. So I started hiring people, and now we have 5 consultants. We've got entities in South Africa, Dubai, and Netherlands. And we operate mostly in the US market and Middle East market, all around technology. Starting off with cybersecurity, we've obviously evolved, doing data, AI, and software, both on technical and commercial. So we also do the sales side of the seats. What else can I tell you? Besides I'm a big Arsenal.
Yeah. No, we don't need to talk about football. Tell us a bit about your personal brand, Jeron. You've got a really strong, you've got what, 40-odd thousand followers?
Yeah, I'm surprised by that myself. Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you do it? What's the secret?
Do you know what? Everyone's asked me, and I've tried to help as many people as possible gain. I don't do any promotions. I don't pay for marketing. Zero spend, right? And it was like, people like, how? And I think it's purely organic. A few reasons. I think the posts that I make are not, how can I say it? A lot of the posts are generally about recruitment, positive, posts about recruitment, and there's some negative posts about recruitment because I still don't like recruiters, and people always go, that makes no sense, you are a recruiter. But I like to share a lot of tips and tricks. I've coached and mentored, there must be over 150 plus consultants. So, and I was the L&D leader at Hayes, for goodness sake. So they obviously trusted me to do all their training. So I like to share tips and tricks to help others. And I think, I think most recruiters should be doing this, especially recruitment leaders, is help your fellow community to better yourself, because it's going to better the industry. And I have to say it, recruitment is not a nice word. It's like a dirty word in the industry. When you phone people, you're like, hi, I'm a recruiter. They're like, wolf in sheep's clothing. We know exactly what you want. You just want a job. You don't want to talk. You want a job. So I kind of make a lot of posts about how to better yourself as a recruiter, obviously sharing tips on marketing candidates. I do coaching and training every second week. There's a lot of recruiters that join. That's free training, by the way. I'm going to try and monetize it at some point. But, I like sharing knowledge. I like coaching. I like training. I also like to have a laugh. I've got a sense of humor, I think. Anyhow, a good sense of humor. So I do share a lot of funny things around recruitment, and anything that I see maybe other people posting up, that tongue-in-cheek, do a post similar to this, but with a little spin. That normally goes viral just because they're like, we saw the other post. We know what you're doing there, Jaron. Touch nose. But it's purely organic. I think we take ourselves way too seriously in this market. So having a little bit of fun, posting content that other people relate to, and then also posting about cybersecurity or the niche that you're in. It just gains, you build a community around you that supports you and follows you. That's what I do.
Very good. And I love that you're sharing tips and value. I find that that's massively helpful when you're building a following as well and nurturing, that audience. Talking about the market, what do you see? What are you seeing at the moment in the market, activity-wise?
Peaks and troughs, as always. So we founded this little, we call it the Purple Squirrel Alliance. Horrible name, but it's like a whole bunch of founders, people that actually have worked with me or worked for me, everyone's got their own agencies, and there's about 6 founders that we kind of also jump online and talk about what's happening. And it's weird because we'll have one of the agencies say to me, the market is down, the market is so bad, we're not getting any traction. And the other person's like, it's booming. So I really believe it changes from different perspectives, but also different regions. So if I had to say from my side, Europe right now is a shit show. Okay, I'll say that right now. Europe is a shit show. If anyone disagrees with me, please show me what you're doing, because man, it's a struggle. Middle East is booming. Because, okay, so by the way, we do global recruitment. Our biggest markets are US and Middle East. However, because I'm based in Europe now, I'm trying to open a few more doors, got a few clients, nothing to brag home about. We're also doing some stuff in APAC, which seems to be a little bit better. But I think the tricky part when you're entering a new region, if you don't have a track record or a lot of use case studies that's what I normally do, is I share that and say, this is what we've done. That normally bodes well. If you don't have that, it's always tricky to enter unless you drop your pants and go 10% recruitment. And we don't want to do that.
No.
So for me at the moment, Middle East is booming. Now Trump going down there, shoving in a 600 million investment. There's quite a few big companies to follow. G42 is one of them, definitely for everyone to look at. But Middle East is booming. I haven't seen it waver at all. The fees are starting to trickle because there's so many UK recruiters moving out to the Middle East. And a lot of them are just trying to sign up clients just for the sake of having clients. So what used to be 15 to 20% has dropped to 12 to 15%. Not ideal. It is what it is. USA is still being big. I think I haven't really had, and I'm going to be honest, I haven't really had any moment in my career where I went, the market is terrible. The only thing that I've done is I've gone, I'm phoning the wrong people. That's it. Because most people will turn around and say, oh, and I just mentioned, by the way, that Europe is bad. However, I haven't phoned the right people. I haven't phoned enough people. So if you're phoning a company and you're phoning one person or 2 people, and that's your contact list for that company, and you're like, oh, they don't want to work with us. You phone 2 people. If there's 1,000 people in that company, if you had to map out every single hiring manager, every single person that you could physically talk to that runs their own P&L, I can guarantee you speak to 20 people, one of them is going to have an issue with a recruitment agency or the internal talent team and give you a sniff. But it's once again going back to my door knocking. Don't give up. Just carry on. Just carry on knocking on those doors and dials.
There's a theme though there as well. I don't know if you know a guy called Benjamin Mina, Jeron. He's in the US, but he's got a very, very big profile. And I don't know whether his episode with us was launched yet. If it probably, by the time this one comes out, it probably will have been. And he said something similar at the end to us last week. He said, every market, every geography, there's always someone killing it.
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
And the other thing, I was coaching this morning actually a team, and there's a guy, 2 guys in that team doing really well, and one still working on it. And the guy that's doing particularly well, I said a similar thing to you. You know, it's not just what you're doing; it's how often and how consistent you are in doing those things. That's what makes the difference between, it working and not working. And he turned his laptop screen around, and he had his screensaver said, the secret is to do enough volume that it becomes impossible not to be successful.
Alex Hormozy.
Is it? Is that who it is?
Says, you do that much volume that it becomes like stupidly irrational to think that you won't win.
Yeah. And for all we say, and we're noticing that it's the high value connections and conversations that are creating the most revenue at the moment, like this top of funnel, high volume, low value outreach, automated AI outreach and, AI generated outreach. It isn't producing the kind of response rate as it used to. But the higher value, more personal phone calls, actually by a human being, handwritten, messages that relate to that person, that company, that is producing. For all we say that, you still need to do enough of those things to make sure it's unavoidable to be successful. So it's really good and very interesting to hear What, out of interest, Jeron, is your view on retained working?
So I think this is how we ended up getting to this point of having a podcast, because I commented, or someone commented my name, because I've had many challenges with people on retained. Look, I think with any recruitment, and with any recruiter that starts out, you should be trained on this from the get-go. And if you're not getting trained, then something's failing internally in your agency. First prize is retained. For any agency, it's skin in the game, as we call it. As some people say, shared risk. There's different terminologies. But with regards to a retainer, someone's obviously paid you a commitment fee. No, let's not say commitment fee, because this is where I'm going to bring it up to the contingent side. They paid you a fee, and it's a different model from contingent, because you generally would give a long list, a short list, and get paid for doing work, even if they don't hire someone, but they've got this awesome database they can use at any point, at any time. That's, for me, a retainer model, right? And please, if you disagree, you're more than welcome to teach me.
Happy so far.
Then you've got the exclusive. So first prize retained. Then, because that's guaranteed money and skin in the game, and you're working against yourself, and time is money, right? So second, exclusivity. And I struggle with this one, because I've worked for big organizations, I've worked for startups, and everyone goes, I know what exclusivity is. And I say, what is exclusivity? It's when the client says to me, I'm going to have the role for 2 weeks, a time frame that I have to deliver profiles, and at the end of that, then they're allowed to approach other agencies. I say, okay, fine, half right. But let me ask you a question. Are they allowed to work the role themselves? Internal talent team. Oh, yeah, of course. I said, whoa, well, hang on, that's not exclusive. So, there's so much of this happening, and a lot of companies, unfortunately, a lot of junior recruiters take on exclusive work, and they drop their pants and they go, we normally charge 20-25%, but for exclusive, we'll do 17%. And they're like, oh, that sounds great, sign those terms. Meanwhile, what they don't realize, they're actually working against the internal talent team. Now, if they actually ask the questions, because it's always about asking questions and qualifying, they would soon realize, if they had to ask to the client, what does exclusivity mean for you? And they say, well, you get the role, you're the only agent working it, but our team of 10 talent acquisition people are working it. Whoa. Then you might as well be working contingent against other people, because it's any roll of a dice if it's going to land on the 6. So for me, pure exclusivity is actually written agreement. I send them a piece of paper that states, you give it to us for 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, we'll supply candidates. You're not allowed to work it. No one else is allowed to work it. You get any internal referrals from people in your organization. You're not allowed to consider anyone besides from Coley. Only at the end of 2 weeks, you can consider, once you've rejected every single one of our candidates. So after the 2 weeks, if people are still in the pipeline from us, you still can't consider anyone. You have to reject our people. In other words, your pipeline has to be decimated before you can consider going outside. Now, it's quite a hard pitch, but when you explain why you do it and the outcomes, because you have a fully 100% dedicated recruiter just focusing on yours, it's like retained search without the extra bells and whistles, but you have someone that's dedicated to placing this role. They normally buy into it. I think a lot of the pushback from clients is, well, hang on, what's the difference between contingent? Because surely you should be working 100% on our roles too. And I turn around and say, are you mad? If this is high risk, high reward, no cure, no pay for contingent, which is what most agencies are doing, 80% of agencies, if not most of them, all have this division in their contingent. The problem with that is you don't know who else they're working with. So a consultant says they're going to dedicate their time to you, but they've got 5 other roles on their desk. Naturally, business-wise, the consultant's going to pick the one that's valued the most. Who's got the highest percentage, which one the client's been paying the most or got the most revenue coming through, because you work closest to the money. So anyways, going back to exclusivity, you need to get that in writing and be very clear that it's exclusive to you, and it's actually a guaranteed piece of business if you can deliver on it. And then obviously thirdly, contingent, which we're not happy to do, but we do it.
Are you enjoying this so far? Don't miss a single episode. Hit the subscribe button right now so you can be part of the conversation that's shaping the future of recruitment.
So we dive really deep into the strategies, the stories, and the truth about retained search. So if you want to hear more about it, or you know someone else that needs to hear this, then share it with them. Right, let's get back to the good stuff.
I hope I've answered the question.
Yeah, no, I really like it. I think my challenge with exclusive is always that it doesn't actually stop the client from deciding that they don't want to hire any of the candidates, or deciding actually they're not going to go ahead and carry on with the search, or actually we're not going to hire that type of person anymore. We're actually going to hire this type of person, or thanks very much for your help, but we're going to put a pin in this for now. And
Happens.
it happens. And what's pissed me off most about that, because for me, as a, growing up as a pure contingent recruiter, exclusivity was the holy grail, really, before I learned how to transition to retained. But that I got so sick of like prioritizing that, because it was the holy grail. Oh my God, it's exclusive. They're giving me exclusivity. I'm going to put all my time and all my energy on that one because that's the one that is exclusive. And then they say, actually, I'm really sorry. Thanks very much. I really appreciate you've done a great job. It's nothing that you've done. So it's almost worse for me than contingent, because it's even, I'll stop working on other things in order to prioritize that. And I've still got no commitment. I've still got no actual, financial commitment. And my risk is even higher, really, because they can just drop me, like a ton of bricks. So and it is still contingent. The fee is only paid
100%.
if, it's dependent. The full
success.
part of the fee is dependent upon making the placement. So I always sort of try and help people realize that it's either retained or it's contingent. Like exclusive is still contingent, really. So just be careful when you're putting, I always say to people, be careful when you're putting all your time into something, because it can be a bit of a devil in disguise.
It's a fancy contingent model. It's like I don't know. I was going to use a stupid analogy. I use a lot of analogies. A lot of people say, "Dude, what are you on about?" But like, it's a car with NOS. It's the same thing. It's got a little bit of turbo, and it can kind of mislead you, especially if you have NOS on a Fiat. No one cares.
Jeron, sometimes I think as well, though, like if I think about how you articulated exclusive in terms of how you position it with the client, I don't think the next step to retained is that big.
No, it's not.
No, it isn't.
Like in terms of winning the business, like, okay, financial commitment, exclusive, like people can do it. I just don't think they realize they can.
Yeah. People get scared by retained. Right. Yeah. And they think it's a big step, but it isn't really.
If you go and say retain, like right now, and I've coached a lot of recruiters, including my own, by the way, you're going to probably ask me at some point, have we signed? We actually just signed a retainer.
Yay.
So that was very nice. Literally just before you like send me and say, let's do a podcast about this, I'm like, I'm going out there to want a retainer. So I know I've got one signed recently.
Jeron, this is what happens. People just speak to us and they just start winning retained business.
Yeah, it's a good selling point.
Oh, brilliant.
But, I think you're 100% right, Jordan. I think once you get to the part of saying, and this is, I'm going to use an analogy, right? So the part of doing exclusive and actually saying to someone, you give it to us 2 weeks, and if we do end up placing it, the tricky part is to go from that model to retain, because they've just seen you do that and they're like, we didn't have to pay anything up front, and you're doing that. So the hardest part for me is once you get them buy into that, how do you move them to retain? After a while, as most people in recruitment would say, oh, you need to be, working with a client for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years of building trust. Then you can move to retain, because now they trust you, they believe in you, they're willing to do that. And I'm like, actually, it's really hard to do it at that point, because they're so used to a certain model. It's like people are allergic to change. We all know that, right? So no one likes change. The way I do the retained, and you're going to absolutely hate me for this, because it's probably the worst pitch ever. However, I say to clients that think about when you order things online, Amazon, Temu, noon, I don't know what, a Deliveroo, food, doesn't matter. Any service or any product that arrives to you, you pay up front. We don't even question it anymore. No one, unless you use those buy now, pay later apps like Tamara and I don't know what other ones there are around, but Tabby, I don't know, you see them on the thing, it says you pay in 3 months. Yeah. All of these things we also not immune, but we also used to it and we don't even see it, that we are paying for things before it gets to us. And guess what? We know if it doesn't get to us, we get a refund or some sort of rebate. I don't know, the credit notes. I'm just using terminologies now, kind of linking up to recruitment. So when I say to clients, have you ever considered a retained model? The main reasons being it's a little bit different than what your outcomes, but also there's way more value in it than the contingent. And also you might be able to get a discount. Now, that's always not the nicest thing to say because some people would go, why are you offering a discount up front? But from the contingent, which is high risk, high reward, we sometimes say retained, you can maybe save 1 or 2%. I don't know, depending on what we want to pitch. But I kind of use the buying off an app, paying for it. Same thing with services. This is going to sound terrible, but recruitment, our product is human beings. Okay. So all I'm saying is you paying for it up front, and then we're going to deliver the product generally in 20 to 30 days, which is maybe how long it takes for something to be delivered to you. And if it isn't, we'll look for a rebate. Now, as we know, depending on the model of a retained search, maybe 30% upfront is not refundable, right? And then depending on how you cut it up, you're not going to obviously do the whole work and then turn around and give them all their cash back. So it is a little bit of a different pitch. But I like to use that analogy because I think it opens their eyes to going, wait a minute, it's not unheard of. But for some companies that have never done retained, it scares the crap out of them because they're like, how do I actually do this? How do I pay you without you? I haven't got the thing. I don't know how to sign it off. So then you just have to walk through it. The easiest way is to do a PO, purchase order, right? Probably the simplest, quickest way to get something signed off. Anyways,
I agree with your point
before,
though, Jeron. If you think about, whatever it is, a barber, whatever, like if they're happy with the service that they're being provided, if they're working contingently and they're getting what they want when they need it, they enjoy it, they're probably never going to retain you, no matter what the commercials look like, because they don't need to, right? But
there's no broken. It's not broken.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But what I found is, as we move into markets where it is challenging to get high caliber talent because competition is more fierce than it ever has been, and they're risk averse at times where the economy is all over the place, and actually, is it the right time to move at the moment? That means that we need to do more as recruiters, and on a contingent basis, it's difficult to just justify doing it as a recruiter. So the results that customers see are diminishing. They're not always getting what they want when they need it. And that's why for me on a retained basis, if anything, I'd make it more expensive.
More expensive, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm with you, George. Like, I think historically, I've always, when I was first kind of growing in this direction, saw retained as a kind of, premium or better kind of way, and sold it more on that basis. Either that or, you give me some money up front and I'll give you a discount. And those were the kind of two default ways. And for those people that we work with that have started doing bits of retained, they're generally doing one of those two things. And it can work well initially. There's a few I've ran into a few problems where I was getting some money up front, maybe making it a bit cheaper, but also then having some projects which went on and then ended up, it wasn't actually profitable. And I'd rather have not had the retainer, actually. It was a bit of a curse in the end. And certainly shouldn't have been cheaper than contingent. But actually, Jordan makes a valid point. What I've subsequently realised was that the reason that people were buying it wasn't because I was making it cheaper. It was because I was offering to solve a problem that the contingent model wasn't solving.
Yeah.
So for all those clients that were entertaining the conversation on a retained basis, it was mainly because they were seeking a solution, not a couple of percent off.
A discount. Yeah. You were solving a problem, you're adding value. You could have added some
So I sort of changed my business development tactics and started going after the worst and the most difficult stuff, and making it clear that the contingent model wasn't solving it. And lo and behold, explaining why, because you're absolutely right. For all those reasons, the contingent model doesn't enable us to solve difficult hires because you've got to spend so much time on it. And then pointing out that this was the solution. And then when they say, well, but that's more expensive than I've paid, well,
It's demand
that's
charge, isn't
fine.
it?
I'm not going to stop you from paying that, but it's not solving your problem. So
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
the
yeah.
way to solve it, right?
The
And
definition of
no,
insanity.
yeah, exactly. And in no way or at no time is there any reimbursement involved unless it's an early trial period, but it's only for a really short space of time. It certainly doesn't go on. And let's say I spend 8 weeks or 9 weeks on this project, I'm not then going to, they say, stop, give them their money back. That's not going to be commercially viable as a business model either, which I learned very early on, because it's easy, again, to sell it as a reimbursable option. Because they go, oh, brilliant, well, there's no risk because I can just go like 4 weeks down the line and go, actually, stop, please, Jeron, I'll have my money back. That's not commercially viable as a business model, as I discovered either, and not a sensible route to go down. And the other problem is, and it works really well, as Jordan says, with new clients that you haven't worked with, that haven't been having their problems solved, or are running into problems with difficult hires on a contingent basis. It's a very ultimately, I found it really easy sell then to position a retained solution and not make it cheaper, and in fact make it more expensive. But when you get existing clients, as you were saying, Jeron, who you've been working with for a while, especially if you're, a couple of years down the line and actually they're getting a good service from you, well, why should they change? Because they're not having a problem, because you're already solving them all, right? And I like you saying that, just think of it like everything else that we buy these days, and we're actually paying for everything, and it's kind of been a version of that. What I've found really has worked really well is firstly reaffirming that this is a service they want to continue with. Are they happy with what we're doing? And if they are, well, I am as well, because I really like working with you and I want to carry on working with you. But here's my problem, right? Every time you ask me to carry out a piece of work, I go away and do this, this, and this. And sometimes you then say, actually, Jeron, I changed my mind on that. Can you just put a pin in that? And that keeps happening because clients do that, right? And when you can point out that that's happening, then you can explain it's not commercially viable for us to, we want to carry on, we want to keep providing the service, we want to keep delivering the service you're used to, but the market's not getting any easier. In fact, it's getting harder and harder to convince people to make moves right now because everyone's like, shit, I'm just going to stay put, And so in order for me to carry on delivering this service, I'm going to need some financial commitment, and nothing else is going to change. I'm not looking to make more money from you. It's just a slight change in payment model. So it isn't a change to them. It's a continuation of, it's allowing you to continue to provide the level of service that they have come to expect from you. And just let me show you on this next project. I'm not going to take, the portion of fee at the commencement of project and then run away with it, because that's not commercially viable for me either. I don't want to cut my fees by 2/3, and that's worked really well for me converting existing clients. Yeah.
I think if you compare it to anything else in life, it for me makes it seem really easy. Like, I think now I know and I trust my barber. I like my barber and I sleep well at night knowing I've got someone that cuts my hair that I trust. My barber called me tomorrow and said, Jordan, I'm not going to make it any more expensive, but you're going to need to start paying me at the start of the month instead. I would go, no problem at all. Send me back.
Exactly. Yeah, I've got my cleaners out on a standing order.
That's what I mean. Because it's like, they make me sleep well at night. Yeah. I know them. I trust them. They've got my back. They do a good job. I can't be arsed with going back to that of like which barber I'm going to get and I'm going to come out with a Mohican or...
Yeah, exactly. And also the other thing that I always remind people of is, in every other walk of life, the terms and conditions are constantly changing. How often do you get an email saying, oh, your bank, has changed its terms and conditions, or Netflix has changed its terms and conditions, and you've got to fucking agree with it, or else you don't carry on getting the service. Do you know what I mean? So we should be consistently altering our terms of business. That means that it's commercially viable for us to continue providing the service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for a startup like we are, we pivoting and changing all the time. So we've got 5 consultants. We've probably got 20 plus clients that are how can I say this? Because I say I do a lot of proactive recruitment. So we've got 20 clients that actually are reactive. They send us roles. Then we've got so many more clients that don't send us roles, but we proactively sending them people, and they obviously pay us, but it's a different thing, right? You kind of negotiate on the spot. But no, look, it's tricky. You know, I find from my side, or where I'm sitting when I do a retainer pitch, the things that keep coming up is, number one, we're not used to it. We haven't seen it before. And that's actually not hard to overcome. But for me, the easiest way, and that's pretty much how we got the last retainer, it's generally if you hit the nail on the head. If the contingent model is not solving it, they don't see it as the contingent model is not solving it. They just see it that this is already a hard recruitment, right? Like, we are not finding this position. It's been open for 6 months. Or we've interviewed so many people and never found the right person. It's been going on, and 5 agencies have done this. At the end of the day, I just kind of explain to the client, because normally it tapers down and slows down in terms of what they're seeing and the quality. And I say it's because you're on a contingent model. These people have moved on. Yeah. They kind of finding bottom of the barrel candidates, just flicking it over to keep you alive, but they already focus on another account. They're making money somewhere else. They're not making money from you. So you must understand, this is a business. We're not doing a free service. Everyone thinks recruitment is a free service, but you know, this is a business. So anything like that, or really hard places, you know, when I say hard places, regions that you just don't generally find too many recruitment eyes. Like someone goes, we need someone in Estonia or Poland or Cayman Islands or Gibraltar. You know, those type of things, they're really tricky. And you're like, well, to be fair,
I do the Cayman Islands, Jeron, but I think it's much better to do it in person in the Cayman Islands.
Of course,
it's much easier in person out there.
Yeah, you need to meet the candidates face to face, right?
No, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It is much easier where the contingent model's failing. All you need to do is point out to the client what's happening. It isn't the agency, it isn't them, it's the contingent model that doesn't enable us to actually provide the service that needs to be provided. I've also found that the same is true for existing clients that you're working with, where they're really difficult. You know, you've got a client where you're sending CVs and they're just like, no, you know, and you're constantly just not getting where you need to be with it. And they're going, come on, we need this filled now. That's a great opportunity to go, okay, how's it going for you? And they can go, no, it's shit. We're not getting where we need to go. Okay, here's what's going on here. This is really unattractive to work. We're not getting feedback, or you've beaten us down to a low percentage, and and it's multi-agency, and every other agency is having the same problem. Here's what we can do to solve it. And I'd like to demonstrate that to you, that again is another really nice opportunity to convert to retained. Tell us about, you told us about a recent win. Any other kind of good news? What's working for you right now?
What's working? We are at the moment absolutely plowing the market with marketing our candidates. For me, that's the quickest way, honestly, for business development. Don't get me wrong. I do connect with people, and I think 2 things that I normally teach my consultants to do, you know, every single, and this is going to sound weird because I generally find it with a lot of the 180 consultants, the people that are generally strong on the candidate side never had business development training, maybe too scared to do business development. Every candidate is a client, and every client is a candidate. No matter which way you look at it, that's the truth. Yeah. So whenever I speak to a candidate, I always keep as close as I can be, because at some point they're going to be in a situation where they're going to be a hiring manager. That's number one. Automatic should be, normally it's a smooth intro, but sometimes they do forget about you. But every client is obviously a candidate. You can always pitch them. So what's working for us on the BD front is keeping close and getting recommended and referred in. So be it that it's an old candidate of ours that's now become a hiring manager, maybe put us in front of the talent team to sign terms of procurement. That's always worked well. Marketing our candidates is the quickest way for us to do business development. If I'm going to be honest, it's taking something of value to them. So any agency can phone and talk a big game. I actually do this training on a USP, and it's scary how many times I ask a recruitment agent, tell me what's your unique selling point, and the same hogwash that comes out their mouth. We have the best talent, we can find them within 3 days. It's like, honestly, that's no USP. That's what every other person says. So for what I find is going to a client, seeing what they're looking for on LinkedIn or through my network, finding out they're looking for a specific need, finding that candidate and saying to the professional, look, I don't have, and I'm very open and transparent, if not too transparent, say to the candidate, I don't have terms with these guys. I've identified this client. Take a look at them. This is why I think you'd be right for them and why I think you are going to love this company. Mm-hmm. Then phoning that hiring manager, cold call. Mm-hmm. And, I've literally got, I don't know if I can show it because you might see names and stuff. Maybe I'll hold it first, but like literally just, I'm old school. That's probably very white, but I write out and I do a pitch. And I phone these guys and I told them, I'm phoning you. It's a cold call. The reason I'm phoning you is I got this phenomenal person. I saw online you're looking. This is why I think this person's great. And I'll pitch it. It doesn't always land well, though. So at the end of the day, the person will be like, no, we don't use you, PSL, all the objection handling things that we normally get. Yeah. We're trying to overcome that. But the whole point of that is showcasing, number one, we're proactive. Number two, we if they're willing to look at the CV or meet the person, that generally, even if you say, look, there's no strings attached, you don't need to hire this person. All I'm looking to do is for you to meet them. And my rebuttal at the end is always, you never know when a resignation is going to happen. You never know when a new project's going to land. Just meet them. Have your pockets of good talent in there. It's a Rolodex that if anything happens, you can go through it and go, wait a minute, I met Ben 3 weeks ago. Let me phone Jeron. So for me, it's the proactiveness. Sometimes you don't get the quick win. But weirdly enough, I'll get contacted like 3 months down the line by someone saying, you phoned me the other time and sent me this person. We're actually looking for XYZ. Can you help us with that?
Yeah.
That is also a cheeky way to go back because now they're asking you to hit them with a retainer because it's an incoming. It's not going out, right? So yeah, that kind of
and at that point, it's nice to be able to explain, look, we work with clients in different ways. Some of our clients just want to see people ad hoc, and some people need something specific now. In the just wanting to see random people here and there, we can just send you the silver medalists from the searches we're doing. But if you actually need someone finding, then here's how we go about it. Yeah, it's nice. The two feed each other, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the things I watched recently that made me feel very encouraged, because I think I hear a lot of people saying, is the role of the agent in recruitment, diminishing because of our ability now to be able to use and talent acquisition teams getting more and more sophisticated, which they are, and utilizing the data that's at their fingertips. This is a very English thing, so I don't know whether you will know of it, but do you watch Clarkson's Farm, George?
I've never watched it.
I do.
Do you watch it? Oh,
yeah. He's brilliant.
I love it. He is very, very amusing. I know he's a bit acerbic. Some people like him, some people don't. But in the most recent series, the first episode, he's been on his own because Caleb, his assistant, has gone off, as Julian Clary or whatever Jeremy Clarkson said, and doing stage shows. So he's running the farm on his own. And God, he struggles. His tractor breaks, he can't fix it, he can't drill the crops, he can't feed the pigs, he keeps getting stuck in the mud. He's just really struggling. I mean, he's an old guy, right? And so he says to his guy, Charlie, help me out, man. I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. And the first thing Charlie says, did you watch it? Did you hear what it said? Yeah, there are some really good agencies we can go to that will be able to find us someone. It's the first thing he said. I was like, yes, get in. That's the way forward. So yeah, they found an agency and they found him a Harriet who turned out to be hilarious and very, very good. So yeah, I was really enthused by that and I loved it. I don't think we're going
to have to find that episode as well.
The moral of the story for anyone struggling is go into farming recruitment.
Yeah. Oh my God, I don't know. That would be messy, literally. So tell us, Jeron, what's next for you and your business?
What's next? We really looking to move into the Americas market. So be it open up offices in Florida or Texas. I'm just using some of my advisors who give me kind of heads up what we should do that side, because it's always, I don't know, in recruitment, I've noticed if you're on the ground, it's so much better. I'm remote, but being on the ground, even if I'm not on the ground, having an office space, we work shared office, and having a consultant there just bodes well, having someone local. So we do a lot of business that side. I think it's best to open up something. Texas and Florida, purely because of the tax relief, entertainment industry, and I think it's oil. There's a reason. So opening offices there, you get better tax breaks. Coley's evolving. So Coley started off as a recruitment firm. I kind of say we actually are a recruitment incubator. Now, this is going to sound extremely weird, but hey, here's me selling to any consultants that want to come join. So what we're doing with all the consultants that have joined, the reason they've joined is they're going to work with me. We all work together. We all share knowledge. We're also part of this alliance with these other founders. We share knowledge. We train each other. We build, because we're always up to learning and upskilling. Even myself, I don't know everything in recruitment. I learn every single day. So we do, like at Coley, if you join us after 2 years, there's a little trigger pool that if you are ready, you can go start your own company. You can start your own recruitment agency. So we are an incubator for consultants that want to come learn. A lot of them have joined us who are 180 consultants trying to learn how to be 360, learn business development. I'm teaching them that. After 2 years, they're self-sustaining. They're running a desk. They're getting a decent ARR, repeat clients. There's no point for them to carry on working for us. Now, it's going to sound bizarre because most agencies are like, hold on to your best talent. No, I want them to thrive. I want them to be financially free. So they can go with the condition that I'm going to back them. I want to invest in their business. I want equity in their business. And the idea is I'm going to be, hopefully, a recruitment entrepreneur. That's the game. That's the aim. But that's how we're evolving. Beside that, we will always have the recruitment arm. We're not going to be a Hayes. We're not going to be a Reed. We're not going to be a Deco. I think we're going to probably be maximum 15, 20 people, 5 per region. That's it. Top billers only. And as mentioned, once they pull the trigger and they move, we'll replace. And we'll just keep turning. So we're almost like a training academy internally. Then that moves me to the next revenue stream, which I'm trying to do, is actually through training and coaching and monetize it. We're doing currently about 30 consultants that join, and it's not my agency, it's other agencies joining for free. Some from big agencies that you would assume have training, but these people are joining, and it's really cool to see them grow and evolve their desk. And then the third thing, which I would say I'm kind of reluctant to do, but I've been pitched by one of my consultants and I'm very open-minded as a founder, is doing reselling of products. We have a lot of clients that are in fintech space and wellness and they call it health and wellness and fitness tech, fit tech, all these different techs, prop tech, fit tech, med tech. They've got these really cool things that actually link up to HR and like rewards and benefits. And we've actually been pitched by one of our clients to say, would you be able to pitch this into chief HR people, because this is a really cool product. And it really is. I wouldn't just resell anything. So we're even looking at that. It's going, and here's the thing. It's not really reselling. It is reselling because we will make money off it. But I want to provide as much value as possible to a client. And that doesn't just have to be recruitment. As people say, it's a relationship game, not a transactional game. If you can provide value, even if it doesn't deem revenue for you right now, that is the aim of the game, is to provide value. Was it invaluable? What's the word?
Invaluable, that's right.
Yeah, is it invaluable? Be invaluable to the client, that will come back to you time over time. It's not just recruitment, it might be for something else, but if you can show value, that's one way to keep clients for long. And I've got some clients, honestly, they've been with me for 8 years, followed me the journey from agency to agency, just because I showed value. So,
I agree. Hear. And Jeron, where can people contact you? How can they get hold of you if they want to reach out?
Don't contact me, please. I get messaged too many times. Look, I use LinkedIn as a sole platform. I do have Facebook and Instagram private, not really shared. Don't really have the whole company thing on that either. It's purely LinkedIn. That is my social platform. Reach out to me there.
We'll share that with the episode then.
Yeah, that's the best way to contact me. I'm very active on it, so you'll be surprised. A lot of people message and they're like, they were like, he's not going to respond, and I respond within 10 minutes. And they're like, okay, dude, do you sleep? So yeah, please contact me on LinkedIn. I'll happy to help. And it's not just about recruitment. If there's any advice, anything you want around the career, I'm happy to share my knowledge and support anyone to try and get a job.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeron. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for sharing your nuggets of wisdom and your journey with us. I know it's going to be really, really interesting for our viewers and our listeners to listen to.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Our pleasure.
Well, that's another episode of Retrain Search, the podcast in the bag. Thanks for listening to our wild tales, LinkedIn controversies, and our top tips on how to sell and deliver retained search. Get involved in our next episode. Send in your questions and share your experiences with us by emailing podcast@retrainedsearch.com. And don't be shy. Connect with us on LinkedIn and come and say hi. We don't bite. Unless you're a Shrek firm, that is.
we want to say a special thank you to our retrained members for sharing what's working for them right now and innovating new ways to grow and evolve. It's an incredible community. If you're wondering what exactly we mean when we mention our communities, well, we have 2 separate programs. Our Search Foundations program is for recruiters who want to learn how to sell and deliver retained search solutions consistently. And we have our Search Mastery program. That's for business leaders or owners already at 50% retained or more and looking to scale and grow and structure their search firm. We cap memberships to these programs to protect the integrity of the community. If you want access, just talk to us. Okay, thanks for listening. We'll be back very soon with another episode of Retrain Search, the podcast.